Hi, I'm Molly, and today we're going to be working on writing the equation of the line passing through two given points. So for today's example, we're going to be trying to determine the equation of this line here on the graph. We can see it's passing exactly through these two given points. So when we're talking about equations of lines, generally they're written in what's called the slope-intercept form, or sometimes y equals mx plus b. So to come up with the equation for this line, there's two things we're going to need to determine. We're going to need to determine what the m value is, and that's the slope of the line, how steep it is. And then we're also going to need to determine what our b value is, and that tells us the y-intercept of the line, where it's crossing through the y-axis or the vertical axis. So we're going to start by determining what our m value or our slope is. Again, slope is how steep the line is. It's the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. And sometimes that's referred to as the rise over the run of our line. So if we're to take a look back at our line and the 2 points it's crossing through, if I were to start at this point here on the left and travel to our second point, I would have to move up 4 units and then over 10 units. So that means our rise or our vertical change would be 4, and our run or our horizontal change would be 10. So we can say that for this line, the rise over the run would be 4 over 10. And just like any other fraction, anytime we can simplify, we want to do that. So here we'd be able to divide both numbers by 2. And after doing that, we would end up with a slope of 2/5. So we now know the first part of our equation, our m value or our slope. So we can go ahead and get started writing our equation. We know it's going to start out y equals 2/5 x plus b. So last thing we're going to need to determine is our b value or the y-intercept of the line. If we take a look at the graph we're working with, I can see it's going to cross our y-axis somewhere here between -1 and -2. But just by looking, I can't tell the exact value it's crossing at. So what we can do is use the coordinates of either of our 2 points along with our equation to determine what that value is. So I'm going to go ahead and use this coordinate here, 6, 1. So we know any coordinate or ordered pair, the first value is always our x value, second value is our y value. So what I can do is I can go ahead and replace the x with a 6. And then I can go ahead and replace the y with a 1. And now the only variable we have left here is b, and we can go ahead and solve for b. So first we're going to need to simplify here on the right side. So I'm going to need to multiply. 2 times 6 would be 12. So we have 12 over 5 plus b. Now we want to get b all by itself. So that means I would need to get rid of this 12/5. Since it's positive 12/5, that means if I were to subtract 12/5, that would equal 0. And then the only thing we would have left would be b, which is what we want. So remember, when we're solving equations, anything we do to one side of the equation, we always have to do the same to the other side. So I'm going to need to also subtract 12/5 from the left side. So now on the left, I have that 1 I started with minus 12/5. And on the right side, only thing we have left is our b, which is what we wanted. Last, we're going to need to subtract 1 minus 12/5. So remember, before we can add or subtract fractions, we need to get a common denominator. So the one fraction we have here has a denominator of 5, so I'm going to use 5 for our common denominator. So I need to rewrite the 1 with a denominator of 5. So 1 would be equivalent to or the same as 5/5. And now that we have the same denominator, we are ready to subtract. So I would have 5 minus 12, which would equal -7, and we want to keep the same denominator. So now we know our b value is -7/5. And that was the last piece of the puzzle we needed to write our equation. So we know the equation for this line would be y equals 2/5 x, and we now know b would be -7/5. So we are all done. This would be the equation representing the line we were working with. Y equals 2/5 x minus 7/5. Thank you.